When did you first try your own hand at music?
I was about 8 or 9.
How did you learn to play the piano?
Just by ear. I just imitated records.
No one can mistake Clint Eastwood's voice, sharp stare, and his iconic tough guy persona. These unique and appealing features made him a favorite target for celebrity impressions.
Everybody's told me you are the #1 box office star.
Well, I don't think too much about the titles. There's something that the public might enjoy.
From comedians to award show stages, actors are obsessed, channeling the legendary signature style of Eastwood. Let's take a look at 6 famous Hollywood stars in their admiration and respect to the man who has a larger-than-life presence, Clint Eastwood. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey has long been celebrated for his larger-than-life personality and unmatched ability to transform into characters with nothing more than his face, voice, and a little body language. Over the years, he's impersonated everyone from celebrities to cartoon characters. But one impression that remains especially memorable is his take on Clint Eastwood. Eastwood, known for his steely-eyed glances, gravelly voice, and minimalistic, tough-as-nails screen presence, might seem like an unlikely target for Carrey's elastic comedic style. Yet, that's exactly what made it so brilliant. Carrey didn't just imitate Eastwood, he playfully dissected everything about his persona in a way that was not only funny, but insightful. One of the most iconic moments where this impression took center stage was in 1996, when Clint Eastwood was being honored with the prestigious AFI Life Achievement Award. During the ceremony, Carrey took the opportunity to perform a tribute, but naturally, he did it in his own uniquely outrageous fashion. Rather than delivering a straightforward speech, Carrey launched into a full-on Eastwood impersonation, channeling the essence of the film legend while simultaneously cracking up the entire audience. With just a raised eyebrow, a few well-timed pauses, and that famously intense squint, Carrey captured Eastwood's larger-than-life screen presence and exaggerated it just enough to get the laughs rolling without crossing the line into disrespect. What stood out in this performance was how Carrey used his body and expressions to fully embody Eastwood. He wasn't simply putting on a voice. He was transforming. Carrey is a master of physical comedy, and this moment showcased just how refined that skill really is. He manipulated his facial muscles to imitate Eastwood's rugged, emotion-withholding expression, contorting his face into an eerily accurate version of the Dirty Harry snarl. It was almost uncanny how well he could morph into that character, all while keeping a comedic edge that felt warm and affectionate rather than mocking. By mimicking Eastwood's trademark slow, measured speech and stoic presence, Carrey spotlighted just how exaggerated the idea of toughness had become in pop culture. It was a parody, yes, but also a sort of commentary. Carrey was saying, in effect, look how seriously we take this image, maybe too seriously. And yet, by the end of the bit, it was clear that the impersonation came from a place of admiration. Carrey clearly respected Eastwood's legacy and his influence on cinema. He just wasn't afraid to have a little fun with it. The crowd's reaction was telling. Celebrities in the audience were laughing uproariously, including Eastwood himself, who appeared to genuinely enjoy the performance. That's one of Carrey's true strengths. He has the rare ability to parody someone without offending them, to roast without ridicule. There's an honesty in his humor and a kind of wide-eyed glee that softens even the sharpest jabs. His Eastwood impression, especially in that context, felt more like a celebration than a critique, even as it poked fun at Eastwood's stone-faced seriousness and hyper-masculine energy. When Carrey has spoken about Eastwood or imitated him, there's always a tone of reverence just beneath the humor, as if Carrey sees Eastwood not just as a movie star, but as a kind of living myth. Carrey has mentioned Eastwood in various interviews over the years, often in a light-hearted way, but never without acknowledging the power of his screen image. He clearly sees Eastwood as one of the few figures in Hollywood who has managed to carve out a persona so distinct and instantly recognizable that it becomes its own form of storytelling. Eastwood, with his slow, deliberate speech, trademark scowl, and minimalistic acting style, represents the ultimate man of few words archetype. A stark contrast to Carrey's fast-talking, physically explosive comedy. That difference is likely part of what fascinates Carrey so much. In a way, Eastwood represents everything Carrey isn't, and that dynamic fuels Carrey's comedic take on him. At the 1996 AFI Life Achievement Award ceremony, where Carrey impersonated Eastwood on stage, his performance wasn't just a parody, it was a tribute. Behind the exaggerated eyebrow raises and squinty-eyed stare, Carrey was celebrating Eastwood's iconic status in American cinema. He poked fun at the way Eastwood rarely speaks more than a sentence or two in his films, and how his presence alone often does most of the storytelling, but the joke landed precisely because it came from a place of genuine appreciation. It's hard to impersonate someone so convincingly and still keep the tone respectful unless there's a layer of admiration underneath. Carrey's act struck that balance perfectly. What's more, Carrey seems to appreciate the craft and discipline behind Eastwood's minimalist style. While Carrey is often described as over-the-top or wildly expressive, he's also a thoughtful performer who understands nuance. It's likely that he sees Eastwood's stoic control as its own kind of mastery, something that's difficult to pull off, especially in a culture that often favors flashiness over subtlety. In a way, Carrey's impression was as much a study of Eastwood's technique as it was a comic performance. There's also a certain generational respect at play. Eastwood came to fame in the era of classic westerns and gritty thrillers, embodying a kind of old-school masculinity that Carrey, growing up in the shadow of that era, would have seen as larger than life. For someone like Carrey, whose career took off in the 90s, a time when Hollywood was beginning to deconstruct those old archetypes, Eastwood would have been both a role model and a cultural icon to play with. Carrey's comedy often thrives on contrast, and Eastwood's seriousness offers the perfect foil for Carrey's chaos. In interviews and performances, Carrey has never shown anything less than admiration for Eastwood. He's made jokes, sure, but never out of malice. His take on Eastwood feels more like a kid mimicking their hero than a comedian tearing someone down. There's affection in the performance, an acknowledgement of how powerful Eastwood's image has become, and how fun it is to play around with it. Can you guess who's next? He's just as iconic as Eastwood, and everyone loves him too. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is often praised for his everyman charm and grounded personality, but every now and then, he reveals a sly sense of humor that reminds everyone just how sharp and versatile he really is. One particularly memorable moment came during a 2016 appearance on The Graham Norton Show, where Hanks shared his behind-the-scenes experience working with Clint Eastwood on the film Sully. What started as a light anecdote quickly turned into a hilarious and surprisingly accurate impression of Eastwood that had the entire audience, including his fellow guests, laughing out loud. It was one of those moments where Hanks's storytelling talent, comedic timing, and affection for his colleagues all came together in the best way. During the interview, Hanks described Eastwood's famously no-nonsense directorial style. According to Hanks, Eastwood doesn't yell "action" or "cutty" on set the way most directors do. Instead, he speaks in a calm, almost whisper-like tone, something Hanks found both funny and intimidating. With a smirk, Hanks said that working with Eastwood was like being treated like a horse, a reference to Eastwood's time acting in westerns and his quiet, efficient way of running a set. As Hanks put it, Eastwood doesn't coddle actors or spend time pampering them with feedback. He expects them to do the job and move on. This no-frills approach was clearly fascinating to Hanks, who's worked with a wide range of directors over the course of his long career. But what really brought the story to life was Hanks's impression of Eastwood. Without missing a beat, he dropped his voice several octaves, squinted his eyes, and adopted that unmistakable Eastwood growl. "That's enough of that. Let's move on," Hanks grumbled, imitating Eastwood's low-key but commanding presence. The audience cracked up, and so did the other guests, because it wasn't just a funny voice. It was a spot-on portrayal of Eastwood's stoic, cowboy-like demeanor. It was also clear that Hanks had paid close attention while working with Eastwood, absorbing the nuances of how he directs and bringing them to life in a way only a seasoned actor could. What made the moment so charming, though, was that it was never mean-spirited. Hanks wasn't mocking Eastwood, he was celebrating him. His impression was filled with admiration, laced with gentle humor. It gave audiences a peek behind the curtain at what it's like to work with one of Hollywood's most legendary figures, while also reminding everyone that even serious directors have quirks. And it also showed another side of Hanks himself, not just the kind, dependable leading man, but the observant and playful performer who knows how to make a room erupt in laughter without ever being unkind. This story also underscored Hanks's incredible ability to connect with people. He wasn't just doing an impression to get a laugh. He was sharing a slice of his life, using humor to bridge the gap between Hollywood and the everyday viewer. His impersonation gave Eastwood fans something to appreciate and offered a rare, relatable glimpse of what it's like to be on set with a figure who, to many, feels larger than life. Hanks humanized Eastwood in that moment, making him feel less like a mythic cowboy and more like a guy with a very particular, very dry way of doing things. Hanks's appearance on The Graham Norton Show was more than just a funny moment. It was a perfect example of how humor, storytelling, and admiration can coexist. His Eastwood impression wasn't just entertaining. It showed how much Hanks values the craft of acting and directing, and how deeply he engages with the people he works with. Whether he's telling heartfelt stories, mimicking legends, or just being his affable self, Tom Hanks continues to prove that he's not only one of the most beloved actors of his generation, but also one of its most genuinely entertaining. Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson is a name synonymous with intensity, gravitas, and commanding authority on screen. Over the decades, he has become a cinematic icon, especially renowned for his roles in dramas, thrillers, and action-packed films. Audiences around the world recognize his deep, resonant voice and serious demeanor. Whether he's playing a grieving father in Taken, a Jedi Master in Star Wars, or a determined freedom fighter in Michael Collins. But behind the scenes, and in more casual moments during interviews and appearances, Neeson has shown a much more playful and relaxed side, something many fans might not expect. One particularly delightful surprise is his talent for impressions, and among those, his imitation of Clint Eastwood stands out as a fan favorite. Clint Eastwood is another titan of the film industry, known for his stoic expressions, gravelly voice, and sparse, impactful dialogue. His characters often say little, but convey much, making him one of the most iconic figures in American cinema. It's no wonder that Neeson, a fellow actor who appreciates powerful performances and minimalistic storytelling, would admire Eastwood's style. But Neeson goes a step further than admiration. He brings Eastwood to life with an uncanny impression that he occasionally pulls out in interviews, usually to the surprise and amusement of his audience. When Liam Neeson shifts into his Clint Eastwood impression, it's not just about mimicking a voice, it's a full transformation. His tone drops several octaves, and he adopts that slow, deliberate way of speaking that Eastwood is known for. It's all done with remarkable precision and, more importantly, with a clear sense of respect. Neeson doesn't do the impression for laughs alone. It's a subtle performance that honors Eastwood's legacy while giving fans a glimpse of Neeson's own sense of humor and versatility. There's an art to doing impressions well, especially when it's of someone as distinctive as Eastwood. Neeson nails the gruff delivery, the narrowed eyes, and the almost whispered menace that Eastwood has used to define characters from Dirty Harry to the Man with No Name. The first time people hear Neeson perform this impression, the reaction is usually a mix of surprise and delight. Here's this towering figure of dramatic cinema, someone who typically plays emotionally complex or physically intimidating characters, suddenly channeling another legend with perfect ease. It's a reminder that Neeson isn't just a dramatic powerhouse. He's also an actor with range, wit, and a deep understanding of performance. His theater background, where actors are trained to embody a wide array of characters, undoubtedly plays a role in this ability. He spent years studying not just how to act, but how to observe and replicate the nuances that make characters and real people so distinctive. What makes Neeson's Clint Eastwood impression even more enjoyable is the way it reveals a deeper connection between two generations of film legends. Eastwood represents a kind of old-school masculinity and minimalism that's become increasingly rare in modern cinema. Neeson, though different in many ways, channels some of those same qualities in his own roles. The quiet strength, the unflinching resolve, the presence that commands a room without needing to shout. By impersonating Eastwood, Neeson isn't just entertaining fans. He's paying tribute to an artist who helped define a genre and an era. It's an acknowledgement of influence, a passing nod from one cinematic heavyweight to another. Fans who catch these moments during interviews or television appearances often find themselves charmed by the unexpected display. In a world where celebrities can often feel distant or overly polished, there's something endearing about seeing someone like Liam Neeson let his guard down, even just briefly. These impressions humanize him, offering a glimpse of the man behind the serious roles. It's easy to imagine him among friends, sharing a laugh and casually slipping into his Eastwood voice, not for applause, but just because he can, and because he enjoys it. Ultimately, Liam Neeson's Clint Eastwood impression is more than just a party trick. It's a testament to his skill, his appreciation for the craft of acting, and his sense of humor. It bridges the gap between two icons of the screen, one known for westerns and gritty cop dramas, the other for historical epics and emotional thrillers. It also speaks to a shared understanding of character and presence, something both actors have mastered in their own ways. So the next time you hear Neeson drop his voice and say something in that unmistakable Eastwood drawl, know that you're witnessing more than an impression. You're seeing one great actor tipping his hat ever so respectfully to another. You hear impressions, you'll definitely think of the all-around Hollywood figure Kevin. Not Kevin Hart this time. Can you guess another Kevin? Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey is a name that has long been associated with intense performances, complex characters, and a strong presence both on screen and stage. But beyond his dramatic roles in films like American Beauty, The Usual Suspects, and his chilling portrayal of Frank Underwood in House of Cards, there's another side to Spacey that showcases his deep roots in theatrical performance, his remarkable talent for impressions. Among the many public figures and actors he's impersonated over the years, one of his most striking and entertaining impressions is that of Clint Eastwood. Spacey has often used impressions not just as a party trick or comedy bit, but as a genuine extension of his craft. His Clint Eastwood impression, in particular, stands out for its precision and depth. He doesn't just mimic Eastwood's famously gravelly voice, he fully embodies his mannerisms, his squint, his slow and deliberate delivery, and that quiet but undeniable intensity Eastwood brings to every performance. Whether Spacey is performing at a gala, on a late-night show, or just telling a story during an interview, when he slips into Eastwood's persona, it's uncanny. What makes his impression so compelling is that it's not an exaggerated caricature. It's a studied performance. Spacey clearly respects Eastwood and understands the subtle details that make him so iconic. He gets the way Eastwood pauses mid-sentence, how he lets silence do the talking, and how his characters often say more with a look than with words. That level of nuance in an impression isn't something you can fake. It comes from truly studying the person and appreciating what makes them tick. In that sense, Spacey's impression is a nod to Eastwood's unique screen presence and a testament to Spacey's own skills as an observer and performer. One of the most entertaining aspects of watching Spacey do impressions is how seamlessly he transitions between them. He has an entire repertoire, including Al Pacino, Christopher Walken, Jack Lemmon, and of course, Clint Eastwood. He's even performed these in front of the people he's imitating, often earning their laughter and admiration. It's a rare kind of performance art that combines comedy, mimicry, and respect, all wrapped in the confidence of a seasoned actor who knows exactly how to hold a room. His impression of Eastwood stands out because, while it's funny and spot on, it also reveals how well Spacey understands performance as a craft. This ability likely comes from his classical training and deep experience in theater, where actors are often called upon to play a wide range of roles and embody very different personalities. In that world, being able to shift tone, voice, and physicality is essential. Spacey brings all that experience into his impressions. His Eastwood is less of a gimmick and more of an embodiment, a temporary transformation that leaves audiences both amused and amazed. Ultimately, Kevin Spacey's Clint Eastwood impression is more than just an amusing party piece. It's a window into what makes him such a compelling performer. While his career has seen both great acclaim and significant controversy, it's undeniable that his ability to capture the essence of a character, real or fictional, is extraordinary. Through his impressions, particularly of someone as revered and singular as Clint Eastwood, Spacey reminds us that great acting is about more than just saying lines. It's about understanding presence, energy, and the small, powerful things that make a performance unforgettable. Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper is best known for his versatility as an actor, seamlessly shifting between romantic comedies, action-packed thrillers, and deeply emotional dramas. Whether he's playing a fast-talking aspiring writer in Silver Linings Playbook, a battle-hardened Navy SEAL in American Sniper, or a struggling musician in A Star is Born, Cooper brings a level of commitment and charisma that resonates with audiences. But beyond his dramatic and emotional depth, Cooper also has a sharp sense of humor and a talent for impressions that not everyone expects from such a serious performer. One of the more surprising and hilarious examples of this came when he took a playful jab at Hollywood legend Clint Eastwood during a guest appearance on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. In that segment, Cooper didn't just do a random impression of Eastwood, it came with a backstory which made the whole thing even better. At the time, Cooper had worked with Eastwood on American Sniper, a film directed by Eastwood and starring Cooper as the real-life Navy SEAL Chris Kyle. It was an intense, physically and emotionally demanding role, and Eastwood, known for his quiet but commanding presence as a director, left a strong impression on Cooper. So when he mimicked Eastwood's signature style, the gravelly voice, the narrowed eyes, and the famously stoic demeanor, it was more than just a gag. It was a lighthearted tribute to someone he clearly respected and admired. As Cooper launched into his impersonation, the audience erupted in laughter. He squinted, dropped his voice to that deep Eastwood register, and gave one of those silent, slow Eastwood-style stares. It was spot on. The charm wasn't just in how accurate it was in the way Cooper told the story leading up to the impression. He shared how intimidating it was at times to work under Eastwood's quiet watch, noting that Eastwood could direct an entire scene with just a look or a few words. That alone was funny, but when Cooper began physically acting it out, mimicking how Eastwood would silently approach and mutter a low, "Let's go again," the room was in stitches. You could tell Cooper was having a great time, and so was everyone watching. What made the moment even more enjoyable was how unexpected it felt. Cooper is often seen as the handsome, intense leading man, someone who might crack a dry joke or flash a smile, but not necessarily someone known for impressions. Yet here he was, showing off a spot-on Clint Eastwood impression that proved not only his comedic timing, but also his observational skills. Like any good impressionist, Cooper understood that it's not just about copying someone's voice, it's about capturing their essence, and he nailed it. It's also worth noting the affection behind the impression. Cooper wasn't mocking Eastwood, he was clearly in awe of him. His impersonation had the tone of someone who had learned a lot from a mentor and wanted to share a funny story without diminishing that respect. In fact, it gave fans a peek behind the curtain of American Sniper, offering a personal anecdote that deepened their appreciation for both the actor and the director. This moment on Ellen served as a reminder that Bradley Cooper is not just a serious actor or a heartthrob, he's also a guy with a genuine sense of humor, capable of poking fun at himself and the legends he works with. It added another layer to his public persona and made him seem more relatable. It also showed how well he observes the people around him, a trait that probably contributes to his ability to inhabit such a wide range of characters on screen. In the end, Bradley Cooper's Clint Eastwood impression wasn't just a funny moment on daytime TV. It was a delightful glimpse into the playful dynamic between a younger star and a seasoned icon. It revealed the human side of a major Hollywood production and reminded everyone watching that even the most intense actors have a funny bone. Cooper's impression was sharp, respectful, and hilariously on point, and it proved once again that great actors often make great storytellers, whether they're on a film set or just goofing around on a talk show. Did you know that among the two sons of Clint, one followed his path in acting? You might have seen him in one of his movies but missed that he's a legend's son. Scott Eastwood. Scott Eastwood, the son of legendary actor and director Clint Eastwood, has steadily carved out a name for himself in Hollywood. While he's built his career with roles in films like The Longest Ride, Fury, Suicide Squad, and Pacific Rim Uprising, one of the things fans find most fascinating is how much he resembles his father. Not just in looks, but in demeanor, screen presence, and yes, even in the occasional impression. Over the years, Scott has spoken candidly about growing up as Clint Eastwood's son, what it was like working with him, and how his legendary dad has influenced both his personal and professional life. And once in a while, he even slips into a humorous and affectionate impersonation of his dad, revealing not only their bond, but also Scott's lighthearted approach to carrying the Eastwood legacy. Scott's impression of his father isn't something he trots out often, but when he does, it always gets a reaction. In interviews and on talk shows, when asked what it was like being raised by Clint Eastwood or working under his direction, Scott will sometimes squint his eyes, lower his voice into that signature gravelly tone, and deliver a line with Clint's famously sparse delivery. "Get off my lawn," or "Take one more take, huh?" It's always good-natured, never mocking. In fact, it feels like the kind of impression only a son who truly admires and understands his father could pull off. What makes Scott's impression charming isn't just how much he sounds like Clint. It's the way he captures his father's attitude. Clint Eastwood is known for his calm, no-nonsense demeanor on set. He doesn't shout. He doesn't micromanage. He says what needs to be said and expects the work to get done. Scott has talked about how that approach made an impression on him, both as an actor and a person. And when he does his father's voice or reenacts a moment from a film set, you can see there's affection there, along with a touch of awe. After all, Clint Eastwood isn't just his father. He's one of the most respected figures in the film industry. Scott has also been very open about the challenges and pressures of being Clint Eastwood's son. He said in interviews that he didn't get any special treatment growing up, or even when trying to break into the film business. In fact, Clint reportedly made him audition for roles just like everyone else, and turned him down more than once. That tough love approach seems to have shaped Scott's work ethic and humility, and when he tells those stories with a playful Eastwood impression, it adds a human layer to a man so often seen as stoic and unshakable. What's interesting is how much Scott channels his father naturally, even when he's not doing a full-on impression. He has the same squint, the same jawline, and a quiet intensity in his performances that evokes his dad's early work in spaghetti westerns and gritty cop dramas. But Scott also brings his own energy to the screen. He's more playful, a bit looser, and more willing to show vulnerability in his roles. His impression of his dad, then, isn't about living in his shadow. It's more like a tribute, a nod to the man who raised him, mentored him, and continues to inspire him. Scott Eastwood's impersonation of his father is more than just a funny bit for interviews. It's a reflection of a deep, complex relationship between two generations of actors. It shows respect, admiration, and a shared sense of humor. It also gives fans a glimpse of Clint Eastwood not as a towering Hollywood icon, but as a dad who gave his son some tough lessons, a few quiet words of advice, and a legacy that Scott is now carrying forward in his own way. Whether he's channeling Clint for a laugh or simply reflecting on what he's learned, Scott's impression is always rooted in love and in a sincere appreciation for everything his father represents, both on and off the screen. Would you make a good impression of Clint? Click on the next one on your screen for more interesting videos in this channel.